Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari
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 Jashodanandana Braja Janarandana Jashodanandana Braja Janarandana Jamunatira Vanachari Jamunatira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Jashodanandana Braja Janarandana Jashodanandana Braja Janarandana Jamunatira Vanachari Jamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Jashodanandana Braja Janarandana Jashodanandana Braja Janarandana Jamunatira Vanachari Jamunatira Vanachari Harivar Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Jashodanandana Braja Janarandana Nandana Vracha Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tiravanacha Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Jaya Radha Madha Jaya Radha Madha Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Jam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Ashtatara Sattva Shishima His Divine Grace Shila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya His Divine Grace Shila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Gaura Premanandi Hari 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 Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 We are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto number 4, Chapter 22, entitled Prithu Maharaj's Meeting with the Kumaras. Anna, kannst du vielleicht die Tür zumachen? Anna. And today we're going to read text 49. Vainyastu duryo mahatam.
Vainyastu duryo mahatam.
Vainyastu duryo mahatam.
Vainyastu duryo mahatam.
Samstityatyatma shikshaya.
Samstityatyatma shikshaya.
Samstityatyatma shikshaya.
Samstityatyatma shikshaya.
Aptakamam ivatmanam.
Aptakamam ivatmanam.
Aptakamam ivatmanam.
Aptakamam ivatmanam.
Menatmanyavastitaha.
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 Vainyastu durya mahatam.
Vainyastu duryo mahatam.
Samstityatyatma shikshaya.
Samstityatyatma shikshaya.
Aptakamam ivatmanam.
Aptakamam ivatmanam.
Menatmanyavastitaha.
Menatmanyavastitaha.
Vainyastu duryo mahata.
Vanyastu
Tudurya mahata.
Samstitityatma shikshaya.
Samstitityatmashikshaya.
Aptakamam nivatmanam.
Aptakamam ivatmanam.
Menatmani avastitaha.
Menatmani avastitaha. Vainyastu dhuryo mahatam.
Vainyastu duryo mahata.
Samstityatma shikshaya.
Samstitityatma shikshaya.
Aptakamam ivatmanam.
Aptakamam nivatmanam.
Menatmani avastita.
Menatmanyavastitaha.
Matajis.
Vainyastu dhurya mahatam.
Vainyastu dhuryo mahatam.
Samstityatyatma shikshaya.
Samstityatma shikshaya.
Aptakamam ivatmanam.
Aptakamam ivatmanam.
Mena amanyavastitaha.
Menatmani avastitaha.
Vainyaha,
Vainyaha,
the son of Vena Maharaj,
son of Vena Maharaj.
Prithu. Tu,
Two,
of course.
of course.
Duryaha,
Duryaha,
the chief.
the chief.
Mahatam,
Mahatam,
of great personalities.
great personalities.
Sangstitya,
Samstitya,
being completely fixed.
being completely fixed.
Adhyatma Shikshaya,
Yatma shikshaya,
in the matter of self-realization.
in the matter of self-realization.
Apta,
Apta,
achieved.
achieved.
Kamam,
Kamam,
desires.
desires.
Iva,
Eva,
like.
like.
Atmanam,
Atmanam,
in self-satisfaction.
in self-satisfaction.
Mene,
Mene,
considered.
considered.
Atmani,
Atmani,
in the self.
in the self.
Avastitaha,
Avastita,
situated. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Amongst great personalities, Maharaj Prithu was the chief by virtue of his fixed position in relation to spiritual enlightenment. He remained satisfied as one who has achieved all success in spiritual understanding. Purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Remaining fixed in devotional service gives one the utmost in self-satisfaction. Actually, self-satisfaction can be achieved only by pure devotees who have no desire other than to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Since the Supreme Personality of Godhead has nothing to desire, he is fully satisfied with himself. Similarly, a devotee who has no desire other than to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead is as self-satisfied as the Supreme Lord. Everyone is hankering after peace of mind and self-satisfaction, but these can only be achieved by becoming a pure devotee of the Lord. King Prithu's statements in previous verses regarding his vast knowledge and perfect devotional service are justified here, for he is considered best amongst all Mahatmas. In Bhagavad Gita 9.13, Sri Krishna speaks of Mahatmas in this way. Mahatmanas tamam partha daiving prakriti mashrita vajantyananya manaso gyata bhutadimavyam. O son of Pritha, those who are not deluded, the great souls, are under the protection of the divine nature. They are fully engaged in devotional service because they know me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, original and inexhaustible. The Mahatmas are not under the clutches of the illusory energy, but are under the protection of the spiritual energy. Because of this, the great Mahatma is always engaged in the devotional service of the Lord. Prithu Maharaj exhibited all the symptoms of a Mahatma. Therefore he is mentioned in this verse as Turya Mahatam, best of the Mahatmas. Nice temperature. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshorum Militang Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitang Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Bandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatang Vitang Tvang Sajivam Sadvaitang Savadutang Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padang Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitangscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpa Tarubhescha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vainastu Durya Mahatang Sangstidyatyatma Shikshaya Avtakamangivatmanam Menatmanyavastita. Amongst great personalities, Maharaj Prithu was the chief by virtue of his fixed position in relation to spiritual enlightenment. He remained satisfied as one who has achieved all success in spiritual understanding. Hare Krishna. So today I will also talk just briefly about Lokana Goswami, who we celebrate his disappearance day today. So in this verse, Maitreya Muni is glorifying Maharaj Prithu as the greatest or the chief amongst the great personalities, because he's so advanced spiritually. And Srila Prabhupada explains how such a personality becomes so advanced. And he quotes a verse from Bhagavad Gita where Krishna says how a Mahatma is under the protection of the Daivi Prakriti, the divine energy. Daivi Yesha Gunamayi Mama Maya Durateya. Krishna, he calls the internal potency his Daivi Prakriti, but also his external potency is calls Daivi Prakriti. Both of them are divine because both are Krishna's energies, and because Krishna is divine, both of them are divine. But one is experienced by the conditioned soul as not so divine, as mundane, and the other one is certainly divine because it's connecting with the divine, with Krishna. So we learn in the scriptures that there are many, many potencies, but they can be grouped amongst three, which are, Johannes, kennst du die drei Unterteilungen? Den Energien von Krishna? Okay, marginal energy.
Ich weiß nicht mehr,
then external energy and internal, Bahiranga and Antaranga Shakti. But these are just classifications. Then, of course, within those energies there are much more subdivisions. So mainly the internal potency can be divided then again into three. The Samvit, the Samvit, the Sandhini and the Ladini Shakti. All of them representing one of the aspects, Sat, Chit and Ananda. And the external energy can also be divided into three, the Gunas, passion and ignorance. These three divisions. So we belong to the marginal, which is called the Tashta Shakti. I explained this word some other time in the class, and I would like to remind again because I find it just makes it very clear. Tatashta literally means situated on the shore. Tata means shore, and sta means stand. No, sta, stand, same word. So situated on the shore means the shore between an ocean of water, a body of water, and land. So we as the marginal potency, we are situated there, sometimes covered by the ocean, sometimes on the land, or in other words, sometimes covered by the external energy and sometimes in the internal energy. So that means that we are always under the control of some energy, if we want or not. If we want to serve Krishna, then we are under the control of the internal potency, and if we want to serve our body, then we are under the control of the external energy. The external energy is called Mahamaya, and the internal energy is called Yogamaya. So, what is very relevant for us in this verse is how it is described Prithu Maharaj is fully satisfied, and Prabhupada explains that everyone is hankering after peace of mind and self-satisfaction. That is a fact. Everybody wants to be peaceful and satisfied. Nobody wants to be distressed. Brahmabhuta prasannatma nashochati nakangshati. Hankering and lamentation. Nobody likes to hanker after something, and nobody likes to lament. In other words, nobody likes to have a desire which is unfulfilled or lose something which he was enjoying just a minute before. Unfortunately, the material atmosphere is such that it actually brings one constantly to the point of lamentation and hankering. And this is because the material atmosphere is basically it can be described with three attributes. It is temporary, it is illusory, and it is miserable. The complete opposite of the spiritual atmosphere, which is eternal, full of knowledge, and blissful. And the spirit soul is also eternal, so when it comes into this atmosphere of temporariness, which is actually the basis of the misery, then it will be very unhappy, because it will look for happiness, and all these things which are to be enjoyed, they come and go constantly. And so the living entity is constantly hankering and lamenting. So the solution is to, as Prabhupada here describes, to become fixed in devotional service. How does one become fixed in devotional service?
Chanting the holy name.
Very good. Yeah, that's actually our very simple process, that if you want to be fixed in devotional service, then what do we need? What will be the result of chanting?
Happiness.
Okay. Do you feel that in the morning when you chant?
Sometimes.
And other times?
I'm tired.
Okay. Why?
Yeah.
If it's described that the chanting will make you happy,
Sorry?
why is it that you feel tired when the chanting is actually meant to plunge you in the ocean of happiness, anandam buddhivardhanam?
Because the conditioning is so strong and it needs some time sometimes to get up, I would say.
Yeah, the basic requirement to be always fixed in devotional service is prema. Because if one has prema, then there is no question of not being engaged in devotional service, but one will naturally always engage in devotional service in mind, words and activities. It's like when a boy falls in love with a girl, he will always think of the girl. Doesn't have to artificially produce something. It's just flowing naturally. There's this verse in Bhagavatam, I think, Kunti, who is praying, please let my thoughts just flow like the Ganges river into the ocean. Let my thoughts flow to you constantly. So that's why we say in the morning when we sometimes chant the 10 offenses. So these 10 offenses have to be avoided in order to quickly achieve the desired success, Krishna Prema. And then with this Krishna Prema, which is the goal, one can then feel happiness. But happiness then will come naturally. So how can one get prema? Like prema is the prayoja, the goal. And like you said, chanting is the simple process of attaining prema. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And chanting is nothing else than what is described in this verse, but to Daivi Prakriti Mashrita, to take shelter of the divine energy. Prabhupada, he translated the Maha Mantra as, O Mother Hara, please engage me in Krishna's service. So the Maha Mantra is actually a prayer to Srimati Radharani. So we are here stuck under the control of Mahamaya, and we are chanting in order to come under the shelter of Srimati Radharani. Because we ourselves don't have the power, we are always under the control of energy, and so we have to pray to Srimati Radharani that she empowers us to become a servant of Krishna. And so a pure devotee, he who has prema, why does he have prema? If that's the goal and the way to attain prema is chanting, then what does it naturally mean? A pure devotee is always chanting. Prabhupada many times said, actually, pure devotee is always chanting. And that sounds very romantic for the conditioned soul. Oh, that sounds very nice, always chanting. And we think it's not possible, because when we chanted our 16 rounds, then we do everything else than chanting, and when we sleep, especially, we don't have any control what's going to happen. So much nonsense comes up in the mind during sleep. But pure devotee is always chanting. I remember when Guru Maharaj left in 2020, then I was often in touch with Gaur Krishna Prabhu, who is the servant of Satchidananda Maharaj, because he grew up actually under the care of Bhakti Charu Swami, because his parents are disciples of Guru Maharaj. So I often spoke to him on the phone, and then from time to time Satchidananda Maharaj would, come and take the phone and talk to me. It's very nice. And he would just, console, and very nice, like an uncle. And actually here when he arrived, the first thing also, he turned and he said, such a loss, such a loss. So, but then there was a festival coming up in Singhachalam, and Gaur Krishna said, hey, why don't you come? You can talk to Maharaj and, get his association. So that was in autumn. I remember there was a big corona how you say? Spreading. But fortunately I got a darshan, I think it was like the last evening, and it was very late. But then I had the chance to talk to Maharaj, and it was very nice. He spoke about how it was for him when Prabhupada left. He explained, and then he spoke about. I asked him about his memories of Prabhupada, and he told me one memory. I never heard that. He said when Prabhupada came to, I think, Schloss Rettershof, that was a castle in Germany. Satchidananda Maharaj would also give him massage. One thing that was very sweet, he said he would massage Prabhupada, and Prabhupada told him, please knack meine Finger, how you say? When you make that sound? And then Satchidananda Maharaj, like a child, how he describes, he is very good in storytelling. He said, I told Prabhupada, my mother told me that this is not healthy. And Prabhupada became really upset and told him, do it anyway. Just do it, don't question. So, but he was saying how one time Prabhupada was staying in a room, and somehow or other you were able to go from the balcony. I really don't have the details in my mind, but you could see through the window on his bed, and it was quite close. And he says, Satchidananda Maharaj said, he came there and Prabhupada was sleeping, and he could see how Prabhupada's mouth was, chanting Hare Krishna. Or maybe he was even inside and he could hear it. Yeah, so when Prabhupada left the body, also Guru Maharaj, who gave him water, he said, no, it was not like that. Krishnadas Babaji told to Guru Maharaj, can you see Prabhupada's tongue? It is still vibrating and chanting Hare Krishna. So that's the reality. A pure devotee is always chanting. Also Yamuna Mataji, once in the Prabhupada memories, she was describing something, and I remember how, sometimes somebody says and it stuck in your mind. She said, actually Prabhupada was always chanting Hare Krishna. She was saying so nicely, Hare Krishna. So those who were with him, they had this realization that Prabhupada was always chanting Hare Krishna. So this is not just some maybe romantic statement, always kirtanya sadhari, but in reality, always is not possible. No, it means always. And how is it possible to chant always? By Radharani herself. If she empowers you, then you will always chant. But we have to chant in order to get empowerment. So that's how it goes. So, but of course, there is much more than just chanting. Ultimately, chanting is the essence. And Prabhupada also once said that actually our goal is to just sit down here in Mayapur Dham and chant Hare Krishna the whole day. However, because we are not on that stage, we have to do many other things in order to get purified. Sadhana Bhakti. Starting with getting up early in the morning, attending Mangalarti, praying to the Guru, worshipping the deities, chanting Chappa in the association of the devotees, worshipping the Guru, greeting the deities, worshipping Tulasi Maharani, praying to Nishingadev for protection, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, and then of course also doing practical service, engaging our body. So that is all meant to prepare us to chant Hare Krishna constantly. And we should not think that we are actually qualified to do it yet. Sometimes it's good if we make an experience, an experiment. Like we can go to the Holy Dham and just make a vow. Now I'm going to sit down and just chant so many rounds. Or I heard in one temple they do some challenge. The brahmacharis, they will all go to the forest. No, they will meet in the ashram on one particular point and say, so now we're going to all walk out in the forest, and whoever can stay the longest out there just chanting, he will win.
One never comes back.
I'm not sure where it was, but I found it very nice, And actually, some they would stay, a few hours, some they would stay one night, some 2 nights, and then come back at some point. And why is it important? Because I remember how one devotee told me how Harinamananda Prabhu, of course I was not here, but he apparently once in a class said, and it also stuck with me, that the most difficult thing for a young devotee is to understand where I'm standing, what's my position. And then the even more difficult thing is to admit where I'm standing. And it's very true. Like when we're practicing, after some time we actually come to realize we are not maybe as advanced as we would like to be. And then we have to also admit it to ourselves and to others, not to make a show. And so in the beginning we might think, oh, Radha Kund, would be nice to just stay at Radha Kund and chant. I can also, Satchidananda Maharaj said, I shouldn't talk about myself. Did you hear that in the class? We shouldn't talk about ourselves so much. But I also had this Radharani's kripa actually, because when before the lockdown, it wasn't announced at the time, I was in India and somehow or other it seemed I couldn't go to Radha Kund. I wanted to go to Radha Kund. And then I had this desire inside, and then the lockdown came and my flights got cancelled, so I could go to Radha Kund. And I stayed 1 month at Radha Kund, and what was my realization? I'm not qualified to stay at Radha Kund. Because it was lockdown, it was actually really hot, we could only stay in the building, there was no AC, and I tried to chant all day, but it was very difficult. And so I realized, wow, thank you Radharani for giving me this realization so early, so now I can go back and preach. And funny, my Guru Maharaj, he gave this last class in Ujjain before he left to the West. And in the very end, he got some complaints from other devotees that he's going to the West. So then he said, how can I stay back? Others are out there preaching and I'm the leader, I'm not going. How can I stay back? And then he said, Prabhupada didn't want us to stay at Radhakund. He wanted us to go out and preach. Yes. So yeah, we have to follow the process nicely, and then by Radharani's mercy, which comes through the representative of Radharani, who is Guru. Guru will give us the power to chant Hare Krishna. He is the representative of Radharani. And yeah, we please the Guru by following his instructions, and these are very clear. Also, Swami Bhagavan Keshav Maharaj said some instructions, they are general, and some they are particular, and the disciple has to follow both. Careful, in this position it's very easy to fall asleep.
I can do it, yeah.
It's better to not lay against the wall. It will help you to stay awake. Okay, Hare Krishna. Now I will just quickly read to you about Lokana Goswami. Who knows who is Lokana Goswami? Now comes a big test.
Is it the Guru of Narada?
Yes. When did you last worship Lokanat? Guru Puja. When? Who wrote the song? No. Yeah, Lokanat, Narottam, like Gauri said, who wrote the song, he wrote it to his Guru, Lokanat Goswami. I will just read. Srila Lokanat Das Goswami is mentioned as follows in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Sange Gopal Bhatta Dasa Raghunatha Bhatta Goshai Ar Lokanat. When the Rupa Goswami stayed at Mathura, he was accompanied by Gopal Bhatta Goswami, Raghunath Das Goswami, Raghunath Bhatta Goswami and Lokanat Das Goswami. Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami gives the following information about Srila Lokana Goswami. Srila Lokana Goswami was a personal associate of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and a great devotee of the Lord. He was a resident of a village named Talakadi in the district of Yashohar in Bengal. Previously he lived in Kanchapara. His father's name was Padmanabha and his only younger brother was Pragalbha. Following the orders of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sri Lokanath went to Vrindavan to live. He established a temple named... Which temple? It's nice actually, we can do this now in the meditation, like Keshav Maharaj was saying, no? We have to make our programs deep, meaning when we sing Lokana Glokera Jivana, then all these memories should come up. He established a temple named Gokulananda. That is actually, Keshav Maharaj was saying how, then you meditate about Vishwanath Chakravarti who wrote the song. So his samadhi is at Gokulananda temple. There is a samadhi garden. Jai Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani ki jai, Shri Shri Gaur Nitai ki jai. Srila Narottam Das Thakur selected Srila Lokanath Das Goswami to be his spiritual master, and he was his only disciple. Because Lokanath Das Goswami did not want his name mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita, we do not often see it in that celebrated book. It's another point. Now we were talking about Jayadvaita Maharaj yesterday, and we tend to think, Radhana Maharaj, he has many disciples. Jayapataka Maharaj, he has many disciples. Gopakripa Maharaj has many disciples. So they are the big devotees. They are the most advanced devotees. Yes, that's true. But it's not a sign only if one has many disciples. So Lokana Goswami had one disciple, but how advanced? But he just didn't want. So Jayadvaita Maharaj, similar, no? I asked him, you were in the room? I asked him, Maharaj, how many disciples do you have? Maharaj said, about a dozen. It's very few disciples. So we tend to think, oh, he has not so many disciples, but that's not the indication. Right, yeah. That was actually mentioned in the sannyas initiation ceremony, how Maharaj has only few disciples, but see what kind of disciple he has. Kadamakana Maharaj. On the EBR railroad, the Yashohara station is located in Bangladesh. From the railway station, one has to go by bus to the village of Sonakali and from there to Kechura. From there one has to walk or, during the rainy season, go by boat to the village of Talakadi. In this village there are still descendants of Lokanat Goswami. A pranam mantra for Lokanat Das Goswami has been written by Narottam Das Thakur. It reads, Srimad Radha Vinodaika Seva Sampad Samanvitam Padmanabhatmajam Shrimal Lokanat Prabhum Bhaje. I worship the lotus feet of Srila Lokanat Prabhu, the son of Sri Padmanabha. He is a storehouse of single-minded service to the lotus feet of Shri Radha Vinod. In the village of Talakori Gram, in the Yashohara district, lived the mother and father of Sri Lokanat Goswami. His father's name was Padmanabha and his mother's name was Sri Sita Devi. Sri Padmanabha Bhattacharya was a very dear follower of Sri Advaita Acharya. One day, Sri Lokanath Goswami took his birth in the house of Sri Padmanabha and Sri Sita Devi. His younger brother's name was Sri Pragalabha Bhattacharya. The descendants of Pragalabha still live in Talakori Gram. From his early childhood, Sri Lokanath Goswami was indifferent to family life. One day, giving up his mother and father and leaving his home behind forever, he went to Mayapur in Navadvip to take darshan of the holy feet of Sri Gauranga. Sri Gauranga Dev embraced Lokanath Goswami with great affection, and soon he ordered Lokanath Goswami to quickly go to Vrindavan. But Lokanath Goswami could understand by certain evidence that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would leave home and take sannyas within 2 or 3 days. Therefore, he was in great. Here we can hear how Lokanath Goswami went to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Navadvip, and we can even hear when. And that is something I would like to show you one time, just to deepen your faith in Lord Chaitanya. And I mean, all we hear. You know what they do in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Chaitanya Bhagavat, and even in Bhagavatam, they describe the astrological charts of these personalities. And there is some astrology teachers, for example, Kunti, you know Kunti? She gave this workshop. She's in a line which is connected to some guru from Jagannath Puri. So they all know, of course, Krishna and Ramachandra, but they also know Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. However, they have a little bit of a different understanding, and we have to be careful. However, then sometimes you see when they give classes, they take the chart of Krishna, or they take the chart of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I'm not sure if they took, but then I took my own software, and first I looked for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and you know, it's just mind-blowing. You can find it in this program, and then you understand this is not a joke, it's all real stuff, because the explanations how each planet is situated and the time when it took appearance, it's exactly in accordance with the scriptures. And then you can find Nityananda Prabhu, and you can find so many. And you can actually find, I also have Krishna's chart on my computer. And so what I want to say is we also know, because we have Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's birthday, not only birthday but time, then we also have many other dates. For example, we know when he took sannyas. So now you can actually, I could look it up in the program on what days Lokana Goswami was in Navadvip Dham, because it said 2 or 3 days before he took sannyas. You can even say, oh, that must have been either a Thursday or Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
And it can deepen our faith that actually it's not just some fairy tale. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu could understand the mind and heart of Lokana Goswami and consoled him, saying, we shall be reunited in Vrindavan. In this connection, Srila Narahari Chakravarti has written in his Bhakti Ratnakar, while he was weeping and weeping, crying out his heart at the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya, Lokanat felt himself being caught up and embraced by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Later, as Lokanat bid him farewell, the Lord gave him a confidential message which consoled him greatly. After this, he offered his soul at the lotus feet of Sriman Mahaprabhu, and after giving his pranams to all the devotees, he went on his way. After this, Lokanat never returned to home life. Rather, afflicted with deep separation from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he began wandering from one holy place of pilgrimage to the next. Gradually, after visiting many holy places, he came to Vrindavan Dham. In the meantime, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took sannyas and went to Jagannath Puri. After staying in Puri for some time, the Lord had a mind to deliver the fallen souls, and so began his tour of South India. Hearing of the Lord's tour of South India, Sri Lokanat also went to South India in search of the Lord. Yeah, that's a funny story. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, after visiting many holy places of pilgrimage in South India and again returning to Jagannath Puri for some time, finally came to Vrindavan. Hearing of this, Lokana Goswami quickly went to Vrindavan. Meanwhile, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had already left for Prayag Dham. Actually, it's not funny. But this is what happened. It's kind of because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told him, go stay in Vrindavan and we will be reunited, but I don't know, but he kind of took his own initiative, and that's what happened. Of course, there's a pure devotee in the Lord, so it's all transcendental. Arriving in Vrindavan and not seeing Mahaprabhu, Lokanat was heartbroken. He resolved to set everything right by starting out the very next morning to Prayag to meet the Lord. That night the Lord came to him in a dream and consoled him, saying, O Lokanat, stay in Vrindavan. I have not broken my vow. I have already come to Vrindavan and live there in another form. In this way, you shall always maintain my connection. A few days later, Sri Lokanath Goswami chanced to meet the most dear followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sri Rup, Sri Sanatan, Sri Gopal Bhatt, Sri Bhugarba, and others. The exchange of divine love between them was wonderful to behold. They were all of one mind, one heart. In the midst of the Goswamis, Sri Lokanath was the oldest. He was fully absorbed in prema. In his Mangala Charan to the Haribhakti Vilas, Srila Sanatan Goswami offers his respects to Lokanath Goswami as follows. I will skip that. Sri Lokanath Goswami wandered throughout all 12 forests of Vrindavan in great ecstasy. In one of the forests there is a village named Umarao. There he stayed for some time on the banks of Kishori Kunda. He had a great desire to establish the worship of the Deity and render service to Krishna in that way. Understanding Lokanath's aspiration to serve, Krishna himself appeared before him and offered Lokanath a vigraha, saying, worship this deity here. This deity's name is Radha Vinod. After giving him this beautiful deity, the Lord suddenly disappeared. After this, Lokana Goswami became stricken with anxiety. Seeing him absorbed in worry, Radha Vinod smiled and said, "Why have you brought me here? I have come here personally just to satisfy your purpose. What do you want from me?" "I live in the forest here, near the village of Umarao. By this Kishori Kund you see before you, I make my residence. You must now give me something to eat, quickly." Lokana Goswami's joy knew no bounds. He floated in the waves of prema. After this, he prepared an offering for the Lord to eat. After offering fine rice on a fresh banana leaf to the deity, he experienced great ecstasy by offering his life at the lotus feet of the Lord. He was stunned by drinking in the nectarian beauty of the Lord. After this, he offered a bed of flowers and made the Lord rest. Sri Lokanat Goswami made this place his home. The local villagers and cowhermen wanted to construct a bhajan kutir for him, but he refused to accept it. In order to protect the deity, he prepared a cloth bag which he would keep around his neck at all times. Sri Radha Vinod became like a jeweled necklace around the neck of Lokanat Goswami. The cloth bag was his temple. This was Lokana Goswami's practice until the day he disappeared from this earth, and is an example of the strict vairagya he maintained. With great care he always stayed in the association of the Goswamis of Vrindavan. It is very difficult to exhaustively describe the life and pastimes of Lokana Goswami, who was very dear to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his dear followers, beginning with Sri Rupa and Sri Sanatan, disappeared, Sri Lokana Goswami could not tolerate the separation. After this, his only purpose in life was to establish the wishes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Srila Lokanat Goswami gave mantra diksha to Sri Narottam Das Thakur. There is no mention in the Shastras that he accepted any other disciples. Narottam Thakur served him in secret by going in the dead of night to the place where Lokanat would pass stool and urine, and cleansing the area very carefully. Seeing Narottam's humility, Lokanat accepted him. Would you be willing to clean the stool and urine of your Guru Maharaj? Hare Krishna. Sri Lokana Goswami in his ripe old age, while performing his bhajan in Kadiravan, in Kajaragram, passed away and entered into the eternal unmanifest pastimes of the Lord. At that place is a kunda called Sri Yugala Kund. On the banks of that kund, Srila Lokana Goswami entered into Samadhi. It is said that when Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami went to Lokana Goswami and asked his blessings to compile the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Lokana Goswami gave his blessings, but prohibited Kaviraj Goswami from mentioning his name in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. For fear of violating the oath of Lokanat, Kaviraj Goswami has only briefly mentioned him in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. On the day of Krishnashtami, in the month of Shravana, he entered into the eternal pastimes of the Lord. So, on the day of Krishnashtami, in the month of Shravana. Today is Ashtami, Krishna Paksha, and we have the month of Sridhar, which should be Shravana. Sri Narottam Das Thakur Mahashai prays as follows at the lotus feet of Gurudev. O Lokanat, O Gurudev, if you are pleased with me, please keep me in the shelter of your lotus feet and cast your merciful glance upon me. By your mercy I can find the perfection of inner fulfillment, and by your mercy I can someday meet Sri Chaitanya and Radha Krishna. If you are not merciful to me, then what shall I do? Please, just once, fulfill my heart's desire. In the three worlds of birth and death, no one is more in need of your mercy. Please give me your mercy and give me a place at your lotus feet. Day and night I sing the qualities and pastimes of Radha and Krishna. Still, the inner aspirations of Narottam for the service of Shri Shri Radha Govinda and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu can only be realized through your grace, O Lokana Goswami Prabhu. Srila Lokana Goswami ki jai, Srila Narottam Das Thakur ki jai, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Do you have any questions or comments? Yes.
Thank you. Just about the holy name you were speaking, and I was remembering one class of Guru Maharaj. Recently I heard he was answering a question of a disciple, saying that when he was chanting the holy name, it felt like a torture, like I'm torturing myself by chanting this holy name. This is the disciple telling Guru Maharaj, and Guru Maharaj was really strongly answering. He was saying, of course you feel like that, because it's the jaundice of avidya, it's the jaundice. Sugar is very sweet, but if you have a jaundice, you feel that it's bitter, and he was like really strongly, and that really struck me, because, at least in my experience, sometimes it can be difficult. It's like it can be dry, it can be, we're chanting this holy name, and as you said, we're not in this level of chanting all the time. And even to chant the 16 rounds, it's like, it can be difficult. And that really struck me that this is the remedy. That was his point, Anyways, this is the remedy. Just like for jaundice, the remedy is to take sugar. For this lack of attraction, the remedy is the holy name. There's no other remedy. Ultimately, there's no other remedy. And I was just appreciating about the worship of the deity of Lokanat Goswami. No, Lokanat, you say Goswami? I'm not sure, Goswami. That you were describing how it's another level. He was ecstatic, worshiping with so much love. And I was remembering, what's his name? Janani Vasprabhu teaching about this, that we are practicing now, we're just worshipping this awe and reverence, and he was mentioning Lord Chaitanya, how we worship him as, with so much respect first, but then it changes, he said, at some point it changes, and you are worshipping in a more intimate way, and I guess that's how these great souls, it's love, it's just spontaneously serving out of love. And it's really inspiring just to hear about that, to know that it exists, that it's like that. And I don't know, maybe you can share something from your experience, or because I know you served the holy name through Kirtan, you did the Harinam so long. You have something maybe to share about the holy name, the chanting, and how you deal with this difficulty, this when sometimes it's so dry or so difficult. What is your recommendation? How to not feel discouraged?
So Sachinan Maharaj also came to me after the Harinam, and he said, he was, when he speaks German, it's so sweet. I wish he would understand German. He was saying how, this Harinam is so important, and you saw in the beginning it was what we just said, and then at one point it became so ecstatic, and that's how yeah, this tapasya you have to take. You have to go down and just sit and continue, and at one point, Krishna will. But he wants to see that you are serious. I mean, I don't have any taste for the holy name, and I don't have realizations. When I was in India, in Mayapur, I also had some desire to improve my Chappa, and then Krishna sent a devotee, Jamastami Prabhu. You might know him, he's Prabhupada disciple. He came with some small booklet. It's called Chappa Affirmations from Mahatma. I saw we also have it in the shop. And he said, wow, this book is amazing, it will, transform your Chappa. And he gave it to me, and these days I didn't do it anymore, but I would like to start again. And he said, just read one affirmation before you chant. And it really improved my Chappa. And the point was that I remember one affirmation is I get to chant, I want to chant, and I like to chant. And it's all about, actually we like to chant, but our mind doesn't like. And how we should, the affirmations are here to train the mind. And he says also in the beginning that he got the feedback that these affirmations transformed many devotees' Chappa, because otherwise we are just, we have the mind doesn't like it, and then we try to chant with the mind. But these affirmations are kind of, with my intelligence, I first address the mind. Dear mind, actually you like to chant. Don't you remember? It's quite nice. And then the mind kind of gets reminded, yeah, actually I like, and I'm so happy I get the time, and then it's a whole another experience. And then I find one thing also, personally I see how I feel a lack, the kirtan, because kirtan, Chappa, Ayendra Prabhu said, Chappa is like the pills you take, and kirtan is the injection. So both you have to take in order to become healthy. You have to, with the pills you make sure that the disease doesn't break out, you keep it under control, but with the kirtan you defeat the disease with the injection. And Maharaj was also saying in some class, or somewhere, I don't remember how, you just sit in an 8-hour kirtan and see what happens. Don't tell me nothing's going to happen, And immediately I remembered, yes, when we go to Nam Sevanam and we just make a brata, I'm going to chant, even if it's not 8 hours. I mean, always we feel so transformed after, but we have to do it. Okay, thank you. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai.